Welcome back to Will's Wheelhouse. Today we're going to be doing a spark plug and coil replacement on a Nissan Sentra 2011 model. Start things off, we need to remove the engine cover. So you got two 10mm bolts, one right here and one right here. Remove those, and you got two, I don't know what you want to call these, just little snap ends. Then you've got a 10mm bolt here, another one up here, one right there, one up here, and another one here. To get the two that you can barely see here, it's easiest if you remove this item. Next, you've got a 12mm bolt right here, holds the top of the intake on. And then you'll loosen this bolt and twist this bracket out of the way. Remove your PCV valve hose. Lay that to the side. Unplug the sensor, this hose, and remove the air tube from the air filter housing to the intake manifold. Then you remove your four 10mm bolts that hold your throttle body on. And then you'll have another 10mm bolt down here that you need to remove. Now you have a vacuum tube on the back of the intake manifold. Let's get that removed. Unclip your PCV valve line and remove your intake manifold. Next, remove your clips for your coils. Just press this tab. And then remove the bolts holding the coils in. These are 10mm. There's 4 of them on this vehicle. Next, remove your coils and check the condition of them. If you're reusing these, make sure you keep these in order. So this one shows that it was misfiring. Here compared to this one. All right, now with the appropriate size socket for your spark plugs, and this is on this particular vehicle, it's a 14mm. It is a very, very thin socket compared to a normal 14mm. The normal 14mm will not fit in there. And if by chance you do get it in there, you're not getting it out. But this very narrow 14mm, slightly, I mean, it's got a little bit of resistance, but it fits down in there and it does come back out. So make sure you use the right size socket or it's going to get stuck down in here. Now we have the spark plugs removed, and that one coil that was misfiring, you can see right there. It's been burning this particular spark plug. See how this one compared to this one. Next, some people don't do this, I do, is anti-seize on your spark plugs. Now, I do not recommend going with anything other than the factory style and brand of spark plugs for this particular vehicle. Now with the anti-seize, you just want to cover the first few threads. You don't need a whole lot. A lot goes, actually a little goes a long way. Reinstall the spark plugs by hand until they seat. And then torque to spec. Now match your new coil compared to your old coil. Make sure they're the exact same length, have the same connection. And reinstall your new coils. But make sure you have grease inside those. Dielectric grease or whatever came from the manufacturer. This one already had grease in it. Reinstall the bolts that hold your coils down. Tighten. Now these are not needed to be very tight, just tight enough. Do not over tighten these, they will break and you'll be in a world of hurt. Reinstall your ignition coil leads. Now moving on to the intake side, we need to clean this surface. Next we're going to be replacing the seals on the intake. So grab a pick or a small screwdriver and just work this out. Next, you're going to clean the surface using some brake clean. You can let this dry or use compressed air, and then install your new seals, including the one on the intake. So after you replace the seals on the intake, you reinstall it. Five bolts here, one bolt there, the back of the intake. There's that bolt and the bracket that you loosened. Reinstall your PCV hose. Reinstall the rear hose. Make sure you put the clamps on. After you have the hoses and bolts and clips put back in, hook up your wire, your hose, your air intake tube, and all your clamps. Now you got your hose tight, both ends, throttle body bolts, all four, bracket behind the throttle body, the sensor, the hose, the other hose, all of your intake bolts, your PCV hose, your vacuum hose, the bracket and the bolt that holds the intake on. Reinstall the clips for the engine cover. Snug those up. And then reinstall the engine cover.